Warning. The Federal Communications Commission has determined the following content to be emotionally harmful. Snowflakes should not view this content under any circumstances, even if supervised by a G.I. Joe, Navy SEALs, Army vet, or someone with good common sense. The views and opinions expressed, including the depictions of persons of color, corrupt politicians, white people with or without a tan, haters who have yet to brush their teeth typing angrily in the comment section with hot breath syndrome, do not reflect any official policy or position of the U.S. government. This program contains graphic language, dark comedy, unique intelligence, creativity, a high credit score, and high blood pressure when triggered. This program has also been accused of racism, violence, misogyny, mansogyny, feminism, MGTOWism, defacement of celebrities, and of course, being a bully. Welcome to Thought Crimes.
And this is
Thought Crimes.
Welcome to Thought Crimes, everybody. Prince Solomon in the building here.
And of course, your girl, Sincere, is in the building. Unleash the dragon.
We talking about some
Dru Hill.
Dru Hill, man, and the influence on the game they had, and
Not
also,
a big influence.
You don't think so?
Nah, I'm fucking with
I
you.
know you messing around. You better recorrect your parameters.
Nah, I mean, let's get into the music with Dru Hill. The albums that they put out. One of my favorites, of course, a lot of people's favorites, is Dru Hill, that came out in 1996. It was a self-titled debut studio album from American R&B group, and it was also from Island Records. And it features singles like "Tell Me What You Want."
Yep. Yeah.
Tell me what you need. Also, My Bed, Somebody Sleeping in My Bed.
Which was that was a simp record.
Never Make a Promise, and it was 5 steps to the eternity.
Yeah.
But I like. What are you talking about? A simp song? You love My Bed.
Yeah.
That single.
I love Your Bed.
No, but you love the song My Bed. His other favorite song besides My Bed is If You Play Me, Keep It on the Low.
Another simp record, and Sincere has to be careful because she's treading into shark territory, and she may get ethered live during this broadcast. She keeps fucking around. I do not like either one of those records. They are too simpish for my blood.
I like My Bed more than I like the other one.
Of course you like it.
Why?
Yeah, because he's a guy being a simp, Do you seen the damn video? Everybody talked about that.
Somebody sleeping in my bed.
It worked for what it did.
I just can't stop loving you.
Right? Sisqo had some very powerful vocals, as well as the rest of the cats as well. Woody Rock, I thought he had like a very nice, heavy, soulful voice as well, you know what I'm saying? And Mr. Larry Jazz Anthony.
Well, a lot of them were in the church, gospel.
Sounded
Sisqo.
like it too.
Yeah, and again they founded each other basically in Baltimore. So shout out to people from Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah,
Maryland.
Be more.
Shout out, be more.
Be more, man. What do you think about the fact that when they had those groups like Dru Hill,
Jagged Edge,
112, the fact that maybe you don't see any of that today as far as the black contemporary
R&B. Don't see it
R&B.
at all because it's not mainstream anymore.
Got a lot of both showboaters.
Yeah, it's something that can always come back. It just depends on if people are going to support the music. But to get back to it,
I think they would though. I think
of
people
course
would
they
support
would
the
if it's advertised to them. But I think some people need to do a little bit of digging as well.
If they supported Trey Songz and his
but he was advertised a lot though. I'm talking about digging deeper to find people of talent to get back to this type of music. But yeah, I mean, they top 40 hits. They were best known, of course, for their number one R&B hits, such as "In My Bed," number one, "In My Bed."
Simple record.
"Never Make a Promise," "How Deep Is Your Love." It definitely did extremely well. So that 1996 album, classic, and probably their best album that they've put out there. Mm-hmm. as a collective.
You think their music kind of tapered off a little bit later because the groups were having internal issues?
Into the Dru, there were some joints in there that I liked, but yeah, they were having issues, because of course Sisqo doing his solo thing, and I will say that I prefer Dru Hill 1996 over the 1998 album Enter the Dru. I will say that. But yeah, they had some joints, that were definitely some bangers on that 1998 album.
Yeah, they were having internal issues because one of the things they did, Sisqo did when he left the group, he was talking about, I was the only one to leave a group and become successful like Michael Jackson.
He's talking all that shit, and it imploded.
The Dragon.
To be fair to the Dragon, it imploded because of drug use and some other shit he was doing. That just really, really just destroyed his career and the incline he was on.
Right.
Because again, he only destroyed himself.
It was a random rumor that came out, though.
The Dragon imploded.
The Dragon. Wait a minute. The Unleash the Dragon. The Dragon got caged.
Mm-hmm. Combustion.
Yeah. But I think also one thing about Dru Hill, they made great soundtrack music.
They did. No, they did make great soundtrack music.
Yeah.
And again, Dru Hill ended because Sisqo did his solo thing, Unleash the Dragon, his debut solo album, which was a good album. Although I was irritated with the thong song. I felt it was overplayed. But, he definitely came out with a bang with that debut
Dumps like
album.
A truck. What?
Guys, like what? What? So you prefer that single over Dru Hill's My Bed?
She had dumps like a truck. What? Let me see. Nah, it's a simp song as well. I like DMX's and Sisqo's What These Bitches Want From My Nigga.
So you prefer What These Bitches Want From a Nigga?
Hey, yo! Dog, I meet women, sweet women, / Cocoa Puff, eat women, some shit like that. No, I'm just being real. I mean, the thong song though, seriously, dumps like a. The lyrics were so goofy.
It was so dumb.
Like when I remember when I was younger, I used to hear it. He would be like, "She had dumps like a truck." What? And I was like, "What does that mean, though?"
It was retarded.
Sister, you got dumps like a truck.
I always skip that song. Every time I listen to this album, I was like, "Oh, time to skip that."
Just gonna ignore my question. You got dumps like a truck.
What? I think that is an inappropriate question, Mr. Prince.
But look, did he ever have a follow-up single to Thong Song?
Yeah, that album did fairly well. He had a couple singles that actually did well with pertaining to his solo album Unleash the Dragon. Because
I know him and Usher had like this weird feud for a minute, and then Usher just completely blew past his ass.
Well, he blew past again because of the whole shit he was dealing with and the drugs he got on. Usher, whatever anybody can say what they want about him, but he wasn't on drugs the same way Sisqo was, or at all. Incomplete did really well, and a lot of people behind that was Montel Jordan, Anthony,
classic,
Anthony Sheep. Also behind the Thong Song, if you want to get into that, I believe. What was the thong? Who was behind the thong?
You know
song?
that song. You hit that.
Mark Andrews, Tim Kelly, Bob Robertson, Desmond Child. Montel Jordan was actually behind that one too.
He was behind it. I'm looking. Yeah, okay. That's crazy, man. Were you a big Sisqo fan? Because I used to laugh when I saw him do his little one-arm cartwheel on the beach all the time.
Baby, whoa. I know. I really did like Sisqo, with the exception of the thong song. I mean, he did have a lot of fucking producers on that album, though. Tim and Bob, Warren Campbell, Al West, Baby Dave, One Up Entertainment. Again, also Dru Hill. So he had he actually had the members of his group produce his debut album as well.
Y'all go produce my shit.
Hey, I mean, say what you say. At least it's better than what Justin did.
Yeah, he sent them niggas an email.
Yeah. Don't be too cater. Yeah.
Yeah. Boonts. Wait a minute. Now that I think about it, there was a little three-way situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was Justin Timberlake.
Justin, yeah.
It was Justin Timberlake, Sisqo, and early Usher.
No, but Justin wasn't out there until Sisqo left. It was mid Usher.
Yeah.
Sisqo was already out for the count, and then Justin.
No, you're right. My bad. I'm thinking about the whole NSYNC deal and everything.
The only song I liked from NSYNC was the one with that features Nelly. Would you be my girlfriend?
There was some other group that came out and they had the same instrumental. They were talking about it at the time.
I don't care. I don't remember that. Dun.
Yeah.
Would you be my girlfriend?
Yeah, NSYNC. Oh, man, that was an assault. Damn, that was an assault on black culture. Drive by.
I don't know, because to be honest, most of their music sucked.
And that's why it was an assault.
With the exception of a couple of, like, Tearing Up My Heart. It finally got to me because my mom played that song. It's tearing up my heart.
Yeah.
And like I said,
music.
Excuse me, aren't you into simp music?
I am not into simp music.
So you're not into the whole love thing?
No, I said simp music.
Okay, so
there's clearly a difference.
So you're saying breakup music and
yes. If you talking
cheating music.
If you talking about Mario fucking Winans, I don't want to know. If you're playing me, keep it on the low.
Girls, y'all need to start buying those albums and play it around your men.
Shit,
women
that is
all around the world.
That is simp music. And then he was all in the tub with his jeans on and his fucking pager and his fucking cell phone.
Maxwell was always with bathtub with his clothes on too.
No, that's
I didn't say he was a simp. Let me finish.
Let me clarify.
I said he was in the bathtub
be careful.
too.
With
his clothes on.
You're treading into territories again. You know damn well Maxwell was a player.
Whatever.
All right.
Anyway.
Mario Winans makes simp music. I'm just going to say that one last time.
Dru Hill, they started off with a bang again. I love those two albums by them, especially the one that came out in 1996, a self-titled Dru Hill. And of course, Sisqo's debut album as well. Is there anything else you want to add to this, Prince?
That brother wore a lot of plastic.
He did. He must have been sweating.
Him and that hair. Yo, when Sisqo came out with that hair, and I remember, look, it was messed up because, I will say this, it was messed up because if you go back and look at the early 90s, there were people wearing, platinum blonde hair and all that type of stuff. It was Sisqo, I guess, for him to be a guy at that time in contemporary urban music. Like, I remember all of the rappers when I was younger just going in on him. Sisqo was like the punchline of every rapper's
I guess
lyric.
Eventually, but he was always coloring his hair, even in Dru Hill, and I didn't hear that many people talk about it until
he became big by himself.
Like, even when he became big by himself, when he came out with his debut album in 1999, I was 9 years old, but I didn't hear anybody clowning him.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people. It was a running joke about the Sisqo.
Probably because he was in high school.
Yeah, and then probably
Prince is very old.
And for the record, I was in middle school. Anyway, but look, I will say this: even look, Nas said it himself when he was doing his diss record to Jay-Z.
It didn't matter.
H to the Izzo.
It was a different.
M to the Izzo. For shizzle my nizzle. You a fake phony rapping version of Sisqo?
Yeah, but that didn't matter because Sisqo, back then, R&B guys didn't get bent out of shape when rap guys used them for a reference. They're like, I don't care. I'm not a hard thug nigga. I don't care.
Sisqo talked about it.
Nowadays, if somebody was to mention the Chris Brown Trey songs, whatever, they get bent out of shape. Doesn't matter. He mentioned it. Nobody cared. They use a lot of R&B guys for references.
I'm just letting you know, Sincere. You said it yourself. You was 9 years old and you was playing with Dora and the Explorer and Bananas in Pajamas. So you have no place anyway to say.
First of all,
fail.
If I was not playing with Dora, I would be a retarded kid. First of all,
they got retarded kids that play with Dora the Explorer at 9 years old.
That was actually in that. We probably would get in trouble for that.
What
that joke?
Let's say in the word.
Now we have to do a disclaimer. We are not talking. We don't consider people with disabilities to be retarded. That's the disclaimer.
We have to go there.
We have to let people know.
Thought crimes, my nigga.
We are letting everybody know people with disabilities. You can still listen to Thought Crimes. We do not consider people with disabilities retarded.
We did not. Anyway, moving forward now. All right, because you kind of simplifying.
I had to put
simping up the atmosphere right now.
I had to put the disclaimer out there.
Atmosphere is getting simped up a little bit here.
Anyway, for everybody listening, let us know what you think about Dru Hill and Sisqó. Also, don't forget to support us by donating to our PayPal and Patreon in the description box below. Excuse me. Also, you can go to our email, Gmail. It is darkcrimes1984@gmail.com.
Oh yeah, I got another question. How many blonde stains? How many do-rags did that nigga go through with that hair on him? You know, that blonde stain.
I don't know. Ask Eminem.
Eminem did have. Oh shit, that's right. Cause Eminem. Yeah, that's another thing. We gotta talk about that in some other podcast. But yeah, Negroes, they did let M slide walking around with a do-rag.
Hey, that's again.
You know. Anyway, folks, go ahead and leave your comments below. Tell us, how do you feel about Mr.
Sisqó and Sisqó?
Well, Sisqó, yeah.
I kind of already, asked him that though.
Anyway, well, I'm asking him again. All right. So that's what I'm gonna do. Anyway, folks, leave your comments below. This is your boy Prince Solomon.
And this is your girl Sincere.
We are out. Peace.
I saw the check, nigga. Huh?
Stop.
I said what I said because I did a favor to Whitney. And at the time, I had all of the power. The white bitches in the audience, they listened. I said delete the photo. They did. Whitney was on the floor. Her wig was crooked. In fact, let me tell you this. If it wasn't for me, Whitney's career would have been destroyed. Wait a minute, she's dead, so it didn't help that much. But if it wasn't for me, she would have been tarnished. And I saw saliva coming out of Whitney's mouth. And it was me. I saved Whitney. And I just want to let you know all right now that I was the one who did it. And let that be on record.
And this is
Thought Crimes.
Welcome to Thought Crimes, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with Whitney Houston. This is your boy Prince Solomon.
And this is your girl Sincere. So just like Prince said, we're going to get started on how the industry destroyed Whitney Houston.
All right then. So, how do you feel about Ms. Whitney Houston, Sincere?
Whitney Houston as an artist, of course, she was prolific. She had the golden voice. She had the voice. And she was just an amazing artist with a strong vocals. I mean, and you felt it through the music. You know, when she also performed the national anthem. For me personally, is the best rendition ever done. And you know, Whitney Houston was basically, I listened to her music routinely when I was a kid. You know, my aunts, my mom. Everybody in the family, she was definitely, you know, circulated in the house along with Prince and Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson and TLC and, you know, different R&B artists, soul music and Donny Hathaway. So, you know, she definitely left an impression on pop culture, American culture, but also around the world, global. She was a global powerhouse. And, you know, she grew up, of course, in the church, singing gospel. A lot of the best singers when it comes to music history, you know, Ray Charles, Sam Cooke, Aretha Franklin, they all started in the church, the black church. And Whitney was no different. But the only difference is, of course, she definitely lost her way, as did a lot of them. Some of them did with drug use, although she definitely was put under the influence, I believe you told me, by her brother. Is that correct, Prince?
Well, you know, yeah, that's what he stated to the public, that is, after her death, you know, and they were sitting down with Whitney Houston's family, and he actually said he was the one that introduced her to drugs, narcotics. Miss Whitney Elizabeth Houston was born August 9th, 1963. She died February 11th of 2012. And what's interesting, February 11th is actually Brandy's birthday, who Whitney Houston took up under her arm as far as mentorship as well. And of course, you know, we all know that what was stated is that she died by drowning due to drug intoxication, that is. And Whitney Houston was one of the premier powerhouses of the 90s, that is. And of course, there was like this somewhat of a trifecta. You had Prince, Whitney Houston. No, it wasn't a trifecta. It was Prince, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey. I mean, you had a lot of these big powerhouses of the 90s. And one thing about it, though, except for Prince and Michael, but at least on one time they were actually on stage together. But, you know, all of these people tend to work together. And what's interesting is that, about the 2000s, about 2015, 14, 13, and 16, I mean, you just saw them disappear. That is, I think the last one that's really remaining is Mariah Carey out of the group.
Mariah Carey out of that whole class is Mariah Carey and Madonna, but
we don't really count Madonna.
Yeah, she be on some other shit.
Yes,
but but Mariah Carey is the last one. Going into it, you know, her music, you know, 1992 was definitely a golden year for Whitney. You know, also coming out with The Bodyguard, being nominated, marrying R&B star Bobby Brown, you know, was definitely a big thing. And even though you had drug rumors in 1992 pertaining to Whitney, it wasn't something that overclouded her music. And it wasn't something that people believed, because she has such a polished image that people wouldn't think that she would be doing drugs. But a lot of people that at that time who had very polished images were doing cocaine.
Prince was, he dabbled in some drugs as well at that time too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that has nothing to do, we were going to make it clear here, Prince and I always said that has nothing to do with his death that took place recently. But at that particular time, he was dabbling in some drug use as well. Also, you know, going back to Whitney, like we said before, it was a huge thing to keep these artists hooked on drugs. Even before this, you could go back to the 1920s, 30s, 40s. It was a huge thing to keep these artists on drugs, because it allowed the execs to keep the rights to the music and to make sure they maintain the power over the artist. That's why, I mean, it's rare to even name an artist that didn't do drugs at one time or wasn't influenced by drugs, whether we're talking about David Bowie, any of them, because again, it was an incentive there to have them on drugs, because it was easier to manipulate them, easier to control them, easier to have rights to their music. And Whitney Houston was no different.
Smokey Robinson spoke about that. He said this is why he kind of kept himself clean throughout the industry. He said, I needed to be aware and exactly being able to pay attention to what was taking place in my surroundings, man. And Whitney Houston, you know, she released her first album in 1985, Whitney Houston, and then 1987, Whitney, and then 1990, I'm Your Baby Tonight, aka the X-Men had hijacked that song for their theme song for the opening cartoon at that time. I'm just messing around. But My Love Is Your Love in 98, Just Whitney in 2002, One Wish, the Holiday album in 2003, and I Looked to You in 2009, and of course she continued on. Now, going back to what you were stating about the drug usage, of course, this is some stuff that had taken place within her inner circles, dealing with her family and then her peers. But of course, when we're talking about business, I mean, it actually goes into the whole slave thing. You want to keep an artist, or at least create the atmosphere for them to continue drug usage. Even now today, when we listen to a lot of these rappers that are constantly talking about lean and other drugs and, narcotics and things of that nature, I mean, again, it would be in the corporate label's best interest to keep a slave completely aloof and unaware, and actually always in a state of constant escapism. That way you can manipulate them to however you want. So this is one of the reasons why people should, if they are in the industry or just in general, I mean, you should follow the Smokey Robinson model. The man kept himself clean for the most part, been able to conduct his business successfully, because of course what happens is that you burn out a lot quicker. And Whitney Houston actually, just by the strength of her voice and her discography, she should have been able to continue on a lot longer than she did.
Much longer, yeah, absolutely. And going back to what you were saying there, Lil Wayne is the reason why Baby was fond of Lil Wayne being drugged up. Now, finally, when he comes out of his drug-induced haze, he's like, where's the money? Ray Charles, same thing that happened. David Bowie lost a lot of money. It wasn't until he stopped doing drugs that he was able to get his catalog back online, basically, and have ownership. Because if he continued through that drug path, drug haze, he actually would have been broke and destitute, which is what happens to a lot of artists who aren't basically managing. Now, there are some rare cases where you do have artists who didn't do drugs and still, got screwed over, because they suffered through poverty, and they thought these 360 deals was basically going to help them and alleviate that, because you get a lot of money up front. But then they find out, through what they signed, that they were actually getting the raw deal. So you do have those as well. But a lot of people, it was incentive for a lot of artists to be on drugs. And like Prince said, when we're talking about the drug culture now, people always be like, the drug culture has gotten out of control. The drug culture has always been out of control, and the drug culture has already been here. And you can even go back to a lot of the greatest jazz musicians and some of the singers who were on drugs, and who, again, the exec wanted that, and Whitney is no different. Whitney Houston definitely is someone who had staying power. And the sad thing is when you see such talent destroyed, and we said how the industry destroyed Whitney Houston, because the industry has the ability to destroy a lot of people. We even if we go into DMX, his story, being molested as a child, how he got into drugs, it's something that it isn't really talked about in a way of sympathy and empathy for some of these artists, because there's they have so much money. People perceive them to having so much money, but people don't understand the workings behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I still see bias when it comes to black artists. I will say that, because they don't talk about black artists when they have suffered drug usage.
Yeah, like Billie Holiday.
Yeah, in a humanizing manner. Mm-hmm. Billie Holiday was another one. In fact, they compared Whitney Houston in many ways to Billie Holiday. Well, at the time, she was like a contemporary Billie Holiday, completely a talented individual, but a story of tragedy as well. Then also, though, George Michael had suffered the same fate as well recently, which the media, I kind of noticed they kind of slid it, a little bit around. But usually if it's a black artist, it's plastered all over the news as, this had consumed their entire career and they were animals for the most part. But I saw something that was similar to Michael Jackson's death. And again, this is the American culture's addiction to necrophilia, especially pertaining to black life. Because when Michael Jackson was alive, I mean, culturally, he was the butt of every joke. which was interesting because Chris Tucker actually said Michael really didn't mind. He didn't care. They said he was actually pretty funny about a lot of things. The only thing he didn't like was the whole thing regarding the child pedophile jokes and things like that. He wasn't fond of that at all. But when he died, though, overnight, you know, everybody treated him like he was Jesus. You know, I remember seeing MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC News coverage. Like, it was so disgusting. I turned off the television for that entire week. And then also, I was going to say here with Whitney Houston, it was the same thing. You know, she was kind of like she was a joke for a minute, a cultural joke, and everybody had, you know, got their punch in. And then, you know, when she died, it was like all of a sudden overnight. And I do know that for the most part, you know how people say, well, you know, folks just realize the value of somebody when they're gone. But again, the media didn't go out of its way to try to humanize Whitney Houston's struggle the way they did, like, say, other artists, that is.
Well, the incentive isn't there. You know, you demonize them, so once they're dead, you can flip it and have people have some type of sympathy or empathy for them so their music can still sell. You know, you can't have a catalog that isn't worth selling anymore if you're still demonizing somebody. So you have to, you know, take away your fangs, and now it's time to heal, and now it's time to make people remember the feeling they had when these artists first came out, before they knew about anything they were dealing with internally. And that's what they do. That was what the media does. So that's why once Whitney is dead, once Michael is dead, they have to change the narrative so people can still want to listen to their music and still feel the same way they did when they first listened to it. Now, Prince is a little bit different because, you know, they needed to put a little bit salt on his death and before they crescent him, which they will do eventually again. But they had to put a little salt there because now they have to create a doubt. And they need that doubt in order for the vultures to move out on his catalog, which they already have. So, you know, it's all a chess game. And going back to Whitney here, like, come on, like, these people, the greatest musicians to me, and I'm not being biased, a lot of them are black, but, you know, you look at, you know, how they've touched hands, Whitney, Michael, Prince, Janet, you know, how they've even worked behind the scenes together. Although we talked about this in the Janet Jackson video, we kind of wish that, you know, they would have formed up like Voltron to do stuff together pertaining to the music industry, and a lot of them didn't start doing it until it was too late. But again, that's what happens when you have drugs involved. That's what happens when you have music execs trying to keep them separated, because they would be, look, the music execs were not the people that are important. When you look at Whitney, who grew up in the church, she could have still done great music without having them. If you look at Michael Jackson, if you look at Prince, who was a musical genius, he didn't need them. So, they were basically pimps, kind of.
Yeah, that was it. And it is something that they were able to do successfully. And of course, what's going to happen afterwards is what's going to determine whether what they're going to do with the catalog, of course. And I mean, we saw what they did with Tupac, and there were people that were close to Tupac when they saw the supposed 3D, hologram at the Coachellas, which it wasn't really a hologram. It's an old animation technique that, they've been using since the days of Disney. But there were people close to Tupac, they said they felt it was disgusting. It was like, now we're going to still pimp you in death. And that is something they actually said they wanted to do, the whole hologram thing with Tupac. They want to do it with Prince. They want to do it with Michael Jackson. They want to do it with Whitney Houston. And what's ironic, even when they did it with Michael Jackson, you notice what was the first song they had him dancing to, his hologram image. It was called Slave to the Rhythm. It was like a sadistic fuck you, basically, to Michael Jackson and, his estate. And the thing is, with black artists, even going back to the days of Sam Cooke, black artists have always been under scrutiny. They've always had an air of possibility of death if they tried to fight for their ownership. It was suspected the same thing that happened to Jimi Hendrix. Of course, the story goes that Jimi Hendrix died, from inhaling his own vomit. But they actually had people within his camp that came forward not too long ago and said, no, we did kill Jimi Hendrix. And it was a story that floated right up under the radar. So same thing with Whitney Houston. The death was very mysterious. There were neighbors that said they heard thumping. This whole thing about Clive Davis making sure that the body stayed, in the room for about 13 to 14 hours. He didn't want anybody to quote unquote disturb the Grammy Awards as well. So you had a lot of weird things floating around Whitney Houston's death, but that's usually the case with a lot of black artists.
And Whitney Houston image is easy to use too. It's $1 billion image there, more than $1 billion image. You can have a theme park, you can have hologram of her singing, and you can have also do remixes. Definitely a lot of her songs with lens to remixes with house music or the new type of house music and techno stuff that is being used right now. And I mean, look, they can use these people's image forever. Yep, and keep it going over and over and over again, and that's what they will do. Like what they've set up already with Prince. But to go back to Whitney here, how do you feel about what's being talked about with Ray J saying he feels guilty? Also Clive Davis. How do you feel about Clive Davis' relationship with Whitney Houston and some of the other people that are kind of nefarious that were so-called behind her career?
What do you think about Whitney Houston and Ray J's death, though? Not Ray J's death, but what do you think about Ray J saying he was responsible for Whitney Houston's death? Do you think he's making himself bigger than what he really was in the picture, or you think he's actually feeling some guilt for contributing to, helping her buy drugs and things like that?
I think if you help somebody buy drugs, you are somewhat at fault, but I don't know the extent of their relationship and what took place behind the scenes to really say much on that.
Yeah. And I what was interesting, I will say, going back to the points we said earlier about how these particularly black musicians are treated as, in a sense, cannon fodder and slaves. Like the night Whitney died, right? And then I think it was kind of like the same day, or it may have been the same night actually. Clive Davis, and don't get me wrong, I have nothing against Jennifer Hudson, right? I think she's a talented individual. But Clive Davis was on CNN, right? And he was having a discussion. I don't know who it was at the time. I can't remember. But you all can YouTube the video. And he was saying basically for the most part that Jennifer Hudson is the new Whitney Houston. You see what I'm saying? So it was like, he wasn't giving the audience any time to breathe. He wasn't giving people any time to at least catch themselves, because Whitney Houston was still a big name. So for her to die, it was just one of those situations where people were just like shocked. But Clive Davis, being the businessman that he has always been, he's like, oh no, I understand what you guys are saying about her death, but this is the new Whitney Houston. But you got any final thoughts on this?
Well, going back into the whole Jennifer Hudson aspect of it, of course you have people that are always propped up as replacements, like Britney Spears was pertaining to Janet Jackson. But and Jennifer Hudson definitely has a great voice. One could say, yeah, it could be one of those voices that will be up there with Mariah and Whitney. But and who's to say that she has nefarious means behind it? More than likely she doesn't.
No.
But again, all these artists are usually used as pawns to be played in the chess game of money. The music industry was created, and we're talking about the organization of it, the structure with the studios, were created by gangsters and mobsters and people who were killed for their money, and that hasn't changed. So that correlates into what happened to Whitney. Also, the assassination of her character and the lack of empathy and sympathy, on top of being sanctified after her death so they can make that money.
And there's a key thing you illustrate there. They always Christian them after their death, So it's the same thing. We saw how disgusting they were with the treatment of Michael Jackson's image. We saw what they did with Prince. They actually did the opposite of Prince, right? Because with Whitney and Michael, they were demonized basically for the most part of their duration of their career. And then in death, like you state, they were sanctified. Prince, for the most part, kept a squeaky clean image, or at least he cleaned himself up image-wise from the 70s and mid 80s. and he was able to maintain himself, you know, at least a low-key persona under the radar. Then immediately when he died, they began demonizing his image. So there was like, oh, we got to dirty it up a little bit. But folks, this is us discussing Whitney Houston, what had taken place, how the industry did go in on her, and what took place at the inception of her career with drug usage within her family, and how it followed her throughout her career. And of course, we didn't get into the Bobby Brown aspect, but we felt that Bush has been beat so many times. But folks, leave your comments below. Tell us, what do you think about how Whitney's career had been handled? What do you think about her suspicious death, even that of her daughter? Yeah, I was just getting ready to get into that, her daughter Bobby as well. Christina. And the fact that they said they will move forward with using more and more of her music and image and likeness to, of course, sell more products.
Also, you can subscribe to Thought Crimes. Don't forget to donate to our PayPal and Patreon. You can also check out our email, thoughtcrimes1984@gmail.com. Again, thoughtcrimes1984@gmail.com.
All right, now this is your boy Prince Solomon.
Insincere.
Peace.
I saw the check, nigga. Huh?
Boy, stop. Let y'all just sit on that for a moment. Don't just walk past that. Let's talk about it. Got little niggas shooting at me. Drake with that ugly chinchilla coat, nigga. I'll do you one better. When I was back on the yacht with Melissa Ford, you couldn't afford. It was big pimping, you big simping. I don't even care about that. Shouts out to Lizzo. We need to protect big women. Let me think about it for a moment. They trying to get me up out of it before I own it. People already talking about what they're gonna do. This is like back in the day, all this segregated hate. But that's okay. I'm coming back. I'm Reparation J. But J don't mean Jay-Z, because I don't want no illegal copyright infringement. I'm just talking about the letter J. Because just like you, I got slick lawyers, but you don't hear it. Everybody talking about like they don't got a boss. They lying. Just like these two hypocritical niggas sitting up here on Thought Crimes. It's okay. They paid me to do the intro. So you know me. You know my memento. I sent it to him in an email. Before I tell y'all go to hell, I'll just tell you the price of the retail. Welcome to Thought Crimes. Prince Solomon and Sincere Ignorance. Two silly ass niggas. Good morning.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Perhaps you shouldn't turn your back on me.
Is that a challenge?
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Black folks are nosy. They have specials. Nosy specials. Why does a bee make honey? You ain't a bee. Why do you give a fuck?
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
If he dies, he dies.
Go to our Patreon for more. And don't bother me.